So we begin, Sukanya?
Yes, ma'am, we can start now.
And you can just keep admitting people. So thank you, Sukanya. So welcome, everybody. It's so good to be here with all of you. I can see so many familiar faces, names, colleagues from over the years. I think this is all we wanted today. We did not want an official function. We did not want any VIPs to come. We just wanted a time when we, who have gone through this journey for the last 30 years, we could be together. And in some senses, that's really what I hope we will all feel today. Down to Earth has been very special for all of us at CSC, and I believe many of the people I can see in this room have gone through Down to Earth and its journey together. And in some senses, as I wrote in my opening piece, we have chronicled the world in this last 30 years. We have documented the ups and downs of the world. We have documented the developments in our world, and we have really tried to shape perspectives as we have gone on. The program today is as follows, so that you all know. I am joined here with many of my colleagues who I will call upon as well. But I have also been joined with a number of friends, supporters, who I hope will speak at this forum, which is really a forum of togetherness. It is not an official forum. So the program will be, I will give a broad and a short overview. I'm Sunita Narayan. I work at CSC. I will give a short overview of our journey over the last 30 years. And then I will call upon and encourage you to also, if anyone would like to speak, to raise their hands. What we have done is this meeting is in a meeting format, not in the normal Zoom format in which we do not get to see people. And so Shupadno, who was managing this, chose very carefully to do it in the meeting format, so that we can actually see each other, and we can also ask for anyone to be able to speak. So we look forward to your hands, and we will look forward to your words and thoughts on this occasion. So on behalf of all my colleagues, let me begin and give a short introduction on Down to Earth. You know, we cannot have 30 years of Down to Earth without remembering Anil Agarwal. Anil Agarwal was the founding editor of Down to Earth. He was the force behind the magazine. It was his dream, his vision. And I still believe for many of us, and for many of you who I can see in the room today, you have worked with Anil, and you know his desperation to make sure that the magazine has a purpose. His dream was not, and at all times he told us that it was not a product of the market, but it was the purpose was to make a difference, that we can build perspectives, provide inspiration, so that our readers can make the change that is needed. So it is not Down to Earth which is making the change, but actually providing that information. We also believe that we have a duty to hope. We know in the last 30 years, things have been very tough, continue to be tough, and perhaps even tougher today than they were when we started 30 years ago. If you take the issue of climate change, you take the issue of inequity, you take the issue of agriculture, but it is also very clear that in every issue of Down to Earth, we have focused on the possibility of making a difference. We have looked for people, for initiatives where we can draw inspiration from. And the thing that gives us enormous hope, and I think enormous sense of encouragement, is the mails that we get, and I get particularly from people or people I meet in different circumstances, who tell me how down to earth has shaped their journey and shaped their ability to understand issues. So, a very quick recap of the 30 years, just for us to take stock. When we started Down to Earth, first issue of Down to Earth was on the green fast. Rio was round the corner. First issue, May 15th. The cover story was really about Rio, the green farce. And we talked about how the perspectives of the developing countries, how environmental sustainability was really not possible without an inclusive and equitable world order. Something that holds good then as it does today when the world is preparing for Stockholm plus 50. So 30 years ago, it was Rio. Today, in the next 2 weeks, is Stockholm plus 50, when the world will celebrate 50 years of the original meeting, which brought the world together on global environmental issues. For Down to Earth, we have continued to bring to light the weaknesses in the global discourse so that the issues that matter to the powerless and the voiceless are heeded. The issue of climate change, just look at these covers we have done on climate change. And this is not even the full set of our covers. But at each point, we have reported the step and the misstep on climate change, the science of climate change, the politics of climate change, and of course, the developments that are happening. What is happening to our coastal areas? What is happening to our latest issue when we looked at the issue of human trafficking, the issue of internal migration, the issue of how we are beginning to now attribute the weird and extreme weather events to climate change. So we are increasingly even more needed in our world, because as I see it today, when we started 30 years ago, there was still more space in the media to be able to report in depth the issues and to report from ground up. Today, that is a role that we need to play even more. So if you have expectations from us, I think the one thing that you must demand from us is that we bring you more voices, more reportage from what is happening in our world around us. Tell the story as it happens. One of the first, most interesting covers that we did was when Anil was the editor, and he actually, and I hope some of my colleagues who did the story are with us today, traveled down the Ganga and to tell us why the river was so polluted. And that story has stayed with us in every form as we have brought you issues of what is happening, why, and then, of course, all the pipe dreams that we have, why pipes that we build never actually get finished. The issue of air pollution has been with us, and we have used Down to Earth to document at every point what was happening with pollution, with air pollution. And many of you will remember the original cover story, Nailed, for Slow Murder, where we had put three top industrialists and politicians to say that this was really what was happening, the slow murder, diesel, engines of the devil, and then, of course, the whole story as it emerged in the Supreme Court on pollution and the fight for clean air, our fundamental and non-negotiable right to clean air. The issue of forests, the issue of biodiversity has stayed with Down to Earth in every one of its aspects. And I have found that at all times, every time we write about this, there is so much more that we have not written. We started off with talking about neem as something that we understood the science of neem and what scientists were now starting to understand. And we have talked about extinction, and today how we are beginning as a generation seeing extinction of species in front of our eyes. We really have to understand how people and their right to resources need to be further restored in the years to come. Agriculture, I mean, just look at just a range of stories. And this is, as I said, every time we put this together, this is not even the full range. We have 700 issues, and I would imagine 1/10 of those issues are on different aspects of agriculture. The distress in agriculture, the issues of farm pricing, the issues of farmers, and what's happening with pests, with seeds, with, I mean, it's a Krishi Darshan at some level, but a Krishi Darshan which I think is based on what farmers are beginning to feel, to tell us, and the issues that we can report from their voice upwards. Obviously, the issue of wildlife for us has always been at the core, but wildlife along with people, and how the habitats of wild animals are very much also the habitats of the people who live there, and what we need to do. Disasters are something that are only growing. When I show some of these covers, I always show how, you know, it's now getting to a point when each year we used to do an issue on drought. But then between the issue on drought, which was invariably in the month of May, and we tried to understand what was happening both with drought, but also the efforts for water conservation. Between the issue on drought and the issue on floods, there was always a gap. But now what we are finding is that even as we write about drought, we go into floods. And this is really that weird extreme weathers that we are beginning to see, where we are seeing drought at the time of flood and flood at the time of drought. And of course, every time we have featured, whether it has been the Kerala floods or the issue of the Chamoli floods, what comes out very clearly is the double whammy that we are seeing. The problem where we are not seeing what the mismanagement of our resources on ground, combined with the climate change and the fury, the sheer revenge of nature that we are seeing today. One of the issues that was my favorite was when we looked at Cape Town and the world of Cape Town when it faced the prospect of running out of water. And we tried to understand from Cape Town why indeed was this happening. And it came out so clearly was that the city was lost in its arrogance of not being able to manage its water and wastewater systems. This is an issue we must not forget. Every time we do this in December, it pains us to tell you the story of the Bhopal tragedy. But this tragedy of the industrial disaster, the victims of that disaster, is a story we must not forget. We must learn from it. We must learn from the mismanagement of it to do much better as we go on. And yes, Bhopal has helped us to improve in many respects the industrial disaster management that we have had, but it is a story that we must not forget. Health is an issue that has been at the core of Down to Earth's work. And we have not only focused on the issues of health, the diseases, but invariably now and more now, we are focusing on the links with environment. I mean, with what we are seeing today, health is not just about the universal health system that we need, the access to health that we need for all, but to understand the links with environment so that we can make sure that we can mitigate those risks. We can manage our health system better. The pandemic, and in fact, I must tell you that Down to Earth was one of the first journals to write about the pandemic, even before the news had made it to India. We did a cover story on the pandemic in January of 2020. And since then, every second issue, every third issue has been about the pandemic, looking at the zoonotic diseases, looking at the issue of the pharma industry, looking at the issue of the therapeutic drugs versus other options, looking at the long COVID that we are dealing with. It is, in fact, as I wrote, and I often say that this pandemic is really a story of a lifetime for any science journalist, but it is also the most tragic story of our lives that we have had to tell, and especially the issue that we did last year, this time, when we could only talk about the fires that were burning, and we could only understand why we had reached this stage. Increasingly now, we want more and more to focus and to join the dots between what's happening in India and what is happening in other regions of the world, particularly the continent of Africa. We believe there are a lot of issues that bind us, that bring us together, and we must learn from each other and do it better. Down to Earth Hindi has been a phenomenal work that my colleagues started. And as you can see, it's a monthly, but every issue of Down to Earth Hindi has helped us to connect with new readers, to take the story where it actually matters. Finally, I just want to say our journey is not over, not yet, and not by a long shot. I also want at this moment to recognize the amazing colleagues we have worked with and people who continue to make a difference today wherever they are. I mean, in some senses, Down to Earth's biggest contribution in India has been to environmental journalism, because so many of our colleagues are today in different media houses, in other places, and they are part of Down to Earth. And I hope that when I say this, you will agree that you have a little bit of Down to Earth in you always. And this is really because this is not a magazine. As I said at the beginning, these are Anil's words, and I want to repeat them. This is not a product by, of, or for the market. It is about making a difference in our world. Down to Earth is our commitment for yesterday, for today, and for tomorrow, to make it a better world. So thank you very much for being here with us. And I just wanted to give you this overview, and I hope many of you can remember and recall some of the stories that you were participants and you were there for. I have many faces here who I can recognize, and if I may, I'm going to call upon a few people to speak. And there's no particular order, so please forgive me, but I'm just going to call upon a few people who I can see and recognize. Amit, can I call upon you? Amit Mitra. Amit was one of the original Down to Earthers and worked with Anil and is here. Amit? Sukanya, can you unmute?
Unmute yourself.
Yes. Amit.
Hello, everyone. It's a very nostalgic moment for me. I'll just take a few minutes. Just the other day, while rummaging through my old things, I found a press card, and there Sunita had signed it. And I was journalist number 1. That's an amazing thing. It's a remarkable memory. First of all, I do wish all of you all the best. As Sunita said, not only Down to Earth and CSC has become a part of all of us. I really feel very kind of, emotional when I talk about it. I mean, see, there were certain values we learned there. One of the things was, and that used to be a CSC's logo also, if you see the 5 leaves there on the logo, I mean, it was, science, technology, environment, everything as it relates to the poor. Anil made a famous statement that Gandhi's last man was actually the last woman. After I, I no longer work in Down to Earth, but in a way, it's become a part of me that whatever I work on, education, nutrition, I have to look at it from an environmental point of view. The other thing I learned was do not be afraid. Just travel, speak out, and do not be afraid of saying what you want to say. Danger is a state of the mind. I do not know. I have not been reading Down to Earth for some time now. But, I mean, cross boundaries. One of my most memorable stories, and that had a major lesson for me, that environmentalism is ultimately about governance. India Today was doing a story, India burning. We decided to make a story, the India that did not burn, where we talked about the resilience of the communities, and that is still very much there in the rural Indias of India. I mean, rural areas. You do not have a total breakdown. And to me, that is a revival that is needed. And I think Down to Earth still is giving those messages. Go back to the community, go back, listen to the ordinary people, sit down with them, share their food, and see how they live together. What is it? When I did a story on Chipko, I still remember when Anil asked me to go in the middle of January, and Chandri Prasad Bhatji said, send him over for a holiday 6 feet deep in snow. Sunita persuaded Anil that send him a few months later. I think Down to Earth has become quite rich now. In those days, we didn't have money. I took about 1,000 rupees, trekked in the hills for 45 days. When I came back, Anil asked me, are you sure? That story shook the world. Sunita has been cited academically at least 20 times. What did I say?
Thank you, Amit.
Major thing in that was, okay, the hijacking of the aspirations of the poor woman. We did that. So I hope all of you are breaking new ground. There was a story which some of us did together on sacred groves. I just saw the cover. Sunita, that has been again quoted something like 20 or 25 times in academic journals. So we have to, I mean, okay, I'm quite old now and all that, but COVID, as you had all these stories, I have stopped being, I cannot go to the field anymore. Simply because nobody allows me. They think I'm too old to travel in COVID. But in November 19, a colleague of mine and I did a story in, I call it a story.
Amit, I'm going to call upon you later. Many people who want to.
Okay, I'll just finish this, Sunita. We did a story in the Journal of Peasant Studies, which is totally about the environment. Do please read it. Thanks, Sunita.
Thank you, Amit. It's so wonderful to hear those memories, and thank you so much for remembering. Mehtabji, I saw you. Can I call upon you, one of our earliest readers of Down to Earth? Mehtabji, Mehtabamji. Sukanya, can you unmute her?
Yes, Mama. Try.
I can see her on screen.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Sunita. I still recall the day when Anil Agarwal visited National Institute of Nutrition, where I was working, and told the director and some of us his intention of starting this magazine, Down to Earth. That's how I got hooked to this magazine. It's the only Indian magazine which analyzes the issues of environment, and not just analyze, but also shows the way forward, gives some suggestions. If I may say so, it's a habit-forming magazine. I get addicted to it. There are two publications to which I'm addicted. One is the paper Hindu, which I have to read daily, and the other one is Down to Earth, which I look forward to reading. Most of the, as I said, the more you read, more the dil mage more. But the problem, it is a magazine that produces anxiety in you. It raises corticosteroids. And but to some extent, those are quenched when the way forward is also given, what next to be done. So may I just suggest that if at all possible, give us some stories, feel good stories, positive stories, where success has, I do come across some of them. And environment issue is today not sustainable development cannot be there without sustainable consumption. Yesterday's Times of India, Sunita has an article, there are others who have articles on the issues. And there the question of inequity in using resources has been brought out. I can go on, but since you said there are many people wanting to speak, I'll end there with my best wishes to continue. I'm 88 years old, and I hope till I'm alive, I'll be able to read this magazine. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehtab. And thank you so much for always being there with us and being such an amazing scientist on the issues of nutrition. I saw Pranay around. I saw Pradeep Saha. Pradeep, can I call upon you? One of the originals as well. Pradeep?
Am I audible?
Yes, clear.
Yeah. Well, it's amazing, 30 years. Very strange, but when I was about to join, a mainstream journalist friend said, magazine by an NGO, okay, it will close down after 10 issues. So 30 years is amazing. In fact, sadly, the place where he used to work has closed down, the mainstream one. Down to Earth hasn't. It's amazing, 30 years, unbelievable. There are a whole bunch of older colleagues I can see. There are new ones. These days, I spend more time in content management, and I always go back to the down to earth form, which I keep on telling everyone. I'll just repeat it. Research reports takes away emotion. We need stories. The down to earth model is take the research, go to the research location, put faces into numbers. It's a reverse one. It's an amazing editorial trick. It has worked because we need more conversation, and research cannot generate conversation at a public level. So it's amazing. I mean, this model is amazing. And third thing, I just produced on demand. I had to produce an artwork on climate change, a video installation, and there I also realized that down to us 30 years, these 30 years are very important. There are also 30 years of globalized environmental negotiation. Exactly 30 years. Rio to, if I take Glasgow, we have done amazing work, but we have to also rethink where things go wrong, where public aspiration and global bureaucracy, what's the disconnect, we'll have to think, because in my video artwork, I'm talking about 30 years of organized crime against the atmosphere. It's pretty much organized the way it has happened. So, I mean, there's a lot to cover. There are a lot of thinking to happen. But it's amazing. Congratulations to all my ex-colleagues and current workers at Down to Earth. It's amazing.
Thank you, Pradeep. You put it so nicely. That's exactly what I keep saying. And I think we need to get you over to tell all our young colleagues that this is it. We are putting the face on the research. We are telling the story from down up and joining the links. Thank you very much for saying that so clearly and brilliantly. I saw Justice Lokur here. Can I call upon you? I know this is not fair. I know that I'm just jumping in and asking you, but would you mind saying a few words? You have been one of our biggest friends, supporters, an amazing person who has given us encouragement. Can I ask you to say a few words?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Sunita, and congratulations to everybody who's here today for 30 years of Down to Earth. The first time I came across Down to Earth was when I was going through one of these bookstalls, checking the magazines that were being published. And I came across Down to Earth. It may have been among the first few issues in the early 1990s. And I picked it up. I thought it's a nice thing to read. It has got some good information. So I picked it up and found it extremely interesting. And I was wondering at that time that such a high quality magazine, will it really survive? Because it requires a huge amount of effort, a lot of study. It's not something that you can, just dish out, through experiences or knowledge that you have, but it requires a lot of effort. And I was wondering whether it will really survive. But I'm glad to say that it has survived for 30 years, and I'm sure it will for another 30 years at least, if not more. I would like to share with you, a couple of instances when I was dealing with issues pertaining to the environment. At that time, Sunita would appear in court along with Anumita and their lawyers, and would address the court and educate us about the topics that we were discussing, whether it was imports, or whether it was exports, whether it was air pollution, or whether it was just about anything. And I would supplement, or at least try to supplement, what they had said by finding out if Down to Earth had said something about that particular issue that was before the court. And invariably, I found that there was something in some issue or the other about what was pending before the court. So really, the range of subjects, the range of topics which Sunita had mentioned is really remarkable. And if there's anything that you ever want to know about anything to do with the environment or wildlife, or whatever, the whole collective, the best place to go to is Down to Earth. So congratulations to all of you for making this really, fantastic journey for everybody, and best wishes to all of you, and particularly to Down to Earth. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you, Justice Lukul. Really grateful for those words. I think a lot of encouragement we will all get. Thank you. It's always a dream for journalists to see that their information, their knowledge is being used and is useful. And I think for us, that's really what makes the difference. So thank you so much. Janto, I see you here. I mean, a friend who has also, a journalist, a friend, somebody who's seen us for so long. Any words that you would like to add?
Well, thank you, Sunita. I think it's really a nostalgic moment. It's a great moment. But I think 30 years is too few. We should again celebrate another 20, 30 years down the line. It's just been journey has just been started. I think many people are here. They are definitely will be talking about their experiences. Just a couple of things I would like to kind of share. Number one, my association. First of all, I really consider myself as a part of the wider Down to Earth team and wider Down to Earth family, should I say? And I think I have been kind of some association with Down to Earth for about 20 years at least. And two things strike out. One is a story by Anil. I didn't have the chance to know Anil closely. I missed that opportunity, but one story is my story today, your story tomorrow. I keep on saying this to my younger journalist colleagues, environmental journalists across the country or elsewhere. There's somebody who's been suffering and coming out with a story like that in such an objective manner and such a wonderful story that about himself is unbelievable. I think that is a culture of Down to Earth. I think the Down to Earth is truly the name that the magazine has carried forward. And secondly is Copenhagen, the climate summit when many of us went with Sunita. And I still remember in that sub-zero temperature, every day after coming back around 9:30 in the hotel, we all sat with Sunita and tried to learn the intricacies of the climate negotiations that was going around. And Pradeep has just pointed out that how the 30 years has crossed. I think we still have the jail, Sunita. Right? Many people used to leave the jail. I think I personally, and I, few days before we went, or many of us went to Rajasthan and actually sat with all of you and found the same jail. So Sunita, thanks to you, Shoporno, Anumita, and the entire team, Richard, and entire team to really carry forward this such unusual experiment for such a long time. And we all hope, not only for the sake of Down to Earth, but for the sake of non-mainstream media in the country, that this experiment will carry on. Thank you, Sunita, for the opportunity and that whatever is Down to Earth has contributed to the mainstream media, the way it has influenced the mainstream media. I must say, when we write for Telegraph or when friends write for Times of India, they take input from their Down to Earth understanding. So the way Down to Earth has influenced also the mainstream media is amazing. So thank for all you have done. Thank you.
Thank you, Janto. I could see Vinay Aneja is a very old friend, actually, I think a classmate of Anil's from IIT Kanpur, if I remember right. Vinay, can you say a few words?
Thank you very much, Sunita. I want to congratulate this entire gathering for a wonderful opportunity to both think about the environment, down to earth, and in my case, reminisce about my good friend, Anil Agarwal. Indeed, Sunita, you're right. Anil and I were in IIT Kanpur together. And I want to go back many, many decades and narrate a story. So if you'd please all humor me for a few minutes about Anil. Anil, the story goes as follows. Once a year, the batch would have a picnic, and we went to a little town, which is no longer little anymore, from IIT Kanpur to Bitur, which is where Gangaji flows. And we, after lunch, which was we had taken from the mess at IIT Kanpur, we were returning and there was food left. And somebody said, folks, why haul this food? Whatever is left back, just throw it and move on. And this is where Anil's involvement, and at least in my case, related to environment comes in. He said, no, we are not going to throw this food away. We need to find people who are in need of this food. And, you know, there were a lot of villagers that were walking by. So we took the food out of the bus and distributed to the villagers rather than throwing the food away. Many years later, I thought about this issue, and it occurred to me, here is a young man in his early 20s, and he thinks about issues in ways that I didn't think about. And he took the road less traveled as opposed to joining the corporate world. And he really made a big difference for India and the world. So we all need to congratulate him, Mr. Anil Agarwal, who was my colleague. And we all need to remember what he has left us behind, which is a wonderful organization with a wonderful director general, and we are all the better for it. One last thing. I visited with him, with my wife, at the National Institute of Health in Washington, D.C. And he gave me a copy of the book that had just been published, The Slow Murder. I used that book as a teaching tool in one of my courses, and subsequently I published a paper based on the research in the book and based on the research that I had done associated with it. And that paper has been cited over 200 times, and Anil is a co-author on that book. So I admire Anil and Sunita for all that they have done. And I admire CSE for all that they have left and doing for the country. So congratulations, Sunita, and congratulations, CSE, and congratulations, of course, to Down to Earth for the wonderful work that they are doing. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Vinay. So nice. But it's not me. It's really all my colleagues. We all say we are all children of Anil. We all remember him, and we know that he will come down from wherever he is and kill us if we don't do what we do. So it's all part of knowing his passion. I can see Chitra here. Chitra, one of the original. Can you say a few words? Chitra Gopalakrishnan.
Hi, and it's wonderful being here with all of you. Congratulations. It's really, really nostalgic, as everyone has said. And I think CSC, other than teaching us to open our eyes to another completely different worldview and environment, I think part of our attempts were to involve a greater number of allies. And my role, which Anil seriously encouraged, was to ally with the media. And he felt that we needed a wider readership, and the media was only focusing on stories that had a peg and were ignoring process stories. And so we used the CSC down to earth feature service to ally with the media, and a lot of our stories got accepted, and there was a wide coverage. And as commissioning editor, I think one also kind of pulled in a lot of people who allied with our vision, aligned to whatever we thought, brought out their perspective in a different way. And this was across multidisciplinary fields, be it economists, be it environmentalists, be it health experts, be it forestry experts. So that was, I think, wonderful. And I think Suparno continues to ally with the media and do a wonderful job. Thank you. And I hope all of you continue to do this exceedingly good work.
Thank you, Chitra. So nice to see you. Kishore, I can see you're here. Kishore is also the chairperson of the Society for Environmental Communications. And the man who taught us the word email. So Kishore.
Hi everyone. I can't believe it's 30 years already. I still remember walking into a little office in east of Kailash, and then actually teaching Anil what email was. It's like, what is this weird thing called email, and why do I need it? And to have seen the journey from there to where we are today is absolutely amazing. I think CSE has done a wonderful job. Down to Earth is absolutely fabulous. It's great to see, editors past and present. I haven't seen Pradeep for a very long time, and Richard's taken over that mantle and has been doing an excellent job. So all I can say is congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I saw Atul Arya. Atul is a more recent reader, but a good friend and somebody who knows the energy field so well. Atul, would you like to say a few words?
Hi, can you hear me, Sunita?
Yes, very clearly, Atul.
All right. Hi, everybody. Good morning from Boston. I'm sorry it's too early for me to turn my video on. But thank you for the platform. I mean, what can I say? As you said, I'm a recent reader. I love the magazine, and more importantly, love the work all of you are doing. I think I told Sunita when she was here at our event in March this year that you bring the voice of the people who cannot be spoken, who cannot be heard in the international arena. And I really appreciate what you do, all of you do, and keep up the work, because I think it is really important. And I've been watching and reading everything you're doing. The climate change story is just starting, and we are going to see so much more damage and so many more challenges we're going to see because of climate change. And what you're doing in India needs to be heard. by people outside of India as much as within India. So thank you for that, Sunita, and thank you, everybody. I'm sorry I can't be on the video. You will not
Oh, that's
appreciate
okay.
it.
Your voice is loud and clear. Thank you. And thank you for your support, Atul. So good to hear you. I saw Pranay here, Pranay Lal. Pranay has become, it's always good to see your colleagues becoming film stars and heroes and bigger and better than you. And Pranay is one of them. So, Pranay, did I see him or did I mistake that?
No, Pranay was there,
Okay,
but I think his internet connection is a bit of an issue. He's in Tinsukia currently.
Okay. So then Pallav, Bagla I saw, and then I would ask Eklavya, also one of the original. So Pallav, an old friend, India's top science journalist. How do you see Down to Earth?
Really, down to earth, that's all. I have never worked with a down to earth, but my association with Anil goes back to the days of Kanpur.
Yes.
And my association is family.
Yes.
And my association with Sunita goes back before Sunita was at CSE. And to see such a wonderful journey and to see it take on issues head on is really amazing. I still remember vividly, Sunita, the day you took on Coca-Cola and Pepsi together. Amazing. It's still, I covered it as a journalist. It reverberates in my mind. When I saw the two CEOs together on a press conference, till then we were doubtful of what was happening. But when the two opposing poles sat on a same platform and spoke, that was sheer vindication that things were right. What CSE did, what Down to Earth did, what Sunita did. And look at air pollution. I covered the report foul air, and that issue still reverberates. My God, it is not going away. What a remarkable journey. And I'm so happy. Just last month, I managed to go back, and for the first time in so many years, I spent some time at the Anil Agarwal Environment Training Institute in Tijara, and it was like paying homage to an old environment warrior, Anil. And to spend some few moments with Sunita was lovely. What a place you've created, Sunita. I loved every moment of it. I want to spend more time there.
Thank you, Pallav. Thank
amazing,
you.
Amazing, really amazing.
Thank you. Eklavya.
Thank you, Sunita ji. What a better way to celebrate today than to be speaking from Patna, because if it was not for Down to Earth, if it was not for Center for Science and Environment, Patna wouldn't have happened in my life. And I clearly remember my first experience. I mean, I was no journalist. I was petrified of even writing a report. And here I was sent to Gujarat to review the government's drinking water, water harvesting project. And the thing which Anilji told me before I was leaving, he said, write whatever you see. And believe you me, ma'am, since then, that has been the mantra. When I'm working in Bihar, when I'm working with my colleagues, and it helps to delve into things that we actually do not see. And I'm sure the kind of confidence that I gained because of writing. And if you remember, my first report to Down to Earth was labeled as magnum opus, because I had given on somewhere around 50,000 words. And Sohan went ballistic as to who's this person who has come in and has given a report of 30,000 words. But those mistakes, those exciting endeavors and exposures actually helping me to be what I am today and to continue working with the same zeal. So thank you very much, and many, many congratulations to you, ma'am, and to the entire team, Richie and his entire gang. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Lata, I saw you on Lata Jishnu. Would you like to say a few words, Lata? You continue to work with us. You continue to write with us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
I may not be one of the oldest of your staff, but my association with you goes back to 1992, when you used to write for my paper, Economic Times on Sunday.
Yes.
And one of the things I was told, I'd just come back, come to Delhi, and I was told, you can do what you like as the editor of Sunday 80, but you don't touch that. Those two will be at your throat. So that's the first time I took interest in environmental news. And it was amazing the way it opened my mind to issues I'd never looked at. And then 1 month later, I think that was in April, 1 month later, you all started Down to Earth. And so the link goes back a long time. And I think I started working for you many years down the line. And it's been very fulfilling.
Thank you.
And I wish Down to Earth all the best. And I just want to say that your pandemic coverage was superb. I've told Richard that. Really good coverage.
Thank you, Lata. And thank you for continuing to write about some very, very critical and difficult issues on patents for us. I think every time I read your column, I am amazed to see what we are doing in the world. So thank you. I wanted to ask Sukanya before I have Anumita here, who will, and then I want Richard. But before that, Sukanya, is there anybody who had their hand up who I should call upon? Because we are coming close to the end.
There was a hand up, but they put it down. We can ask them again.
So I also have Shumita. Shumita, would you like to say a few words? Also one of our originals.
Shweta, unmute yourself. Sukanya, can you? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm done. Is it
Yes,
okay?
we can hear you now. Yeah.
I remember I had just joined. It was my first story. Anil had just come back from Australia, and bushfire was the flavor of the month. He gave me 3-4 points. He called me up, and I was just that was my first day, I think. He gave me the briefing, and he said, "I'm coming back on Monday. Please get the story. It should be there, and it should be ready for a news lead, world news." I remember. I just came out, and I remember starting to write, and I will always remember the group of people who were there in the copy desk who kept on saying, "Aha, story was," and then I just wrote it and I put it on his desk. And the next morning when I came up, I saw the sheet of paper and a very, very casually written "good" on it. I danced my way through up to the next day. It was just like one of the best things that first experience of Anil was like wonderful. But there has been a lot more and many times. But one thing that I think everyone will be with me is that once you are in Down to Earth and CSE, you are always there, no matter where you're working, who you're working with, but it's always there as a major chunk of your career, of your profession, and your life. I think all of us will agree. And so good to have you come here and celebrate the 30th year, Shri. That's all thanks to the great.
Thank you. Shubhanu, am I missing anyone? Because I want to otherwise call upon Anumita. And is there anyone?
I think we are also a little short on time.
Yes.
We have just about 5 minutes. So maybe we should go to Anumita and then Richard.
Okay. So Anumita, I want to introduce before I ask her to speak. Anumita and Richard, two of everyone knows them. I don't need to say. But Anumita, who today is, India's foremost air pollution expert, actually came as a reporter to Down to Earth and came from JNU doing MPhil in history. So, to me, that's always the case of people like me, uneducated, how we got into Down to Earth. It's about all of us who've actually, whose own life has been shaped by this creature called Down to Earth. Anumita.
So true, Sunita. In fact, 30 years of Down to Earth is actually part of our growing up years and the way we have grown up with it, and to have completely metamorphosed into something entirely different being altogether. But down to earth for us, it's always been that big idea and a platform that Anil created. And to us at that point of time, it was about how it mainstreamed issues and perspectives that matters most, but often got sidelined as a fringe. But down to earth changed that idea. How it mainstreamed what it truly matters into the mainstream discourse conversation on environment and development, and it challenged the world to think differently. That's how we always felt about it. And it feels so good personally today when I'm looking back, when I saw you showing the first cover of Down to Earth, and I saw that story on Arunachal Pradesh, for us, in 1992, for a news magazine to feature the dynamics of tribal economy and conservation, it was something that no other media group would even attempt at that point of time. Or when Anil asked me to chase Veerappan and said, go and challenge that idea that sandalwood smuggling is not only a crime story, but it is a development and a sustainability story, So it has been an incredible journey. And what is fascinating for us to have changed from researchers to storytellers to influence change, and the way our life changed from infinite timeline of research to deadlines, that's what Anil really made us so conscious of it. And so basically what is coming out now, that Down to Earth has been it's a new prism through which we have seen politics and environment to go beyond what is obvious. And we have understood that story is not always what is most apparent to others, but expose the underlying linkages. And it is about making the connections, joining the dot that others often don't see. And finally, just want to say that this environmental reporting, that this genre of reporting, it has incubated ideas and which eventually transformed as full-blown campaigns. So when you showed us the cover story on Nail Them, and that is a small ink, it was written based on our investigation and slow murder that came out of it eventually. And Down to Earth has since then remained one of the most powerful platforms to communicate on right to clean air. And Down to Earth today has really become the platform for the campaigns and the campaigners that we have become. So looking forward now, therefore, Down to Earth, which is a unique blend of investigation, changing the established news values, shaping new attitude, opinion on what matters most. So going forward, we believe that it can only get stronger, bolder, sharper, and let us be the best watchdog in the world. Thank you, Sunita.
Thank you, Anumita. What a strong, strong message. Thank you. Thank you. And a reminder to all of us. I can see Mr. Gopalakrishnan. Is he wanting to speak? Yes, Mr. Gopalakrishnan. Please unmute yourself. Please unmute yourself. You have a mute button close to you. Or should I
muted.
We can hear you now.
I'm basically an energy auditor, interested in the energy and environment. One good point about, I was reading this magazine for the past 22 years.
Wow.
I exactly don't remember. Very interesting point, straight. And good point with your magazine is, you not only write the articles, but you provide good training programs and certification programs at a very competitive prices compared to the other organizations. That is the plus point with you. See, 1 ounce of practice is better than 1,000 kgs of theory. So not only theory, but good points and some training programs for the children and other things. Even recently, also we were conducting for the children. Very happy about it. So congratulations. Wish you all the best. And you bring out and yearly also get that environment status in India. Yearly this thing. Very good publication and very interesting training. Thank you very much for the
Thank you.
difference what you are making in
Thank you.
and abroad. Thanks.
Thank you. Means a lot when we hear it from our readers. Thank you so much. It really does. Touches all of us, makes us stronger and more committed to go on. I now want to ask Richard to give us the final word. Richard is really the man behind the magazine today. I mean, all of you see me talk about me, but I'm not important. It is Richard. Richard with his band of writers, reporters, and of course there is, I can see Arnab, who now heads our multimedia team, and then there is Anil Ashwani, who heads the Hindi magazine, and then there is Shuparno and his team, who heads the Young Environmentalist, our magazine for the young. But Richard is really the man who, for all of you, I just have to acknowledge in front of all of you his incredible contribution for making sure that the soul of Down to Earth remains intact, that we can actually make sure that we can continue to be that magazine that Anil dreamed of, a magazine that would remain relevant, which would create relevance and would actually tell the story as it is. Richard.
Thank you, Sunita ji. I think because everybody is remembering it 30 years, so let me go back to when, after being rejected once and half a times, I was selected somehow. You recruited me, I remember. But after immediate recruitment, I consulted a very senior journalist. I got into the magazine, but I don't know E of environment. I only know that I get to travel and report. So he's Devinder Sharma. We all know it. He told me something that I still value. He said कि तुम down to earth में जाओ, वहाँ गधा भी अच्छा journalist बन जाएगा. And that was meant for me, and I am an outstanding example of that gada still being there and reporting. And that's all about, I think, down to earth. I think the brand, the down to earth type of journalism that's being pursued, and I've been there for 25 years now. It has not changed at all, I think. And down to earth doesn't change headlines that we're told we make headlines. Sometimes even 5 years before it becomes headlines. The rigor and everything, I think it's still there always. And if given a chance, I think given the quality of journalism we are doing now, and we are looking at the state of media, I think sometimes we always joke that down to earth office should be declared as an archaeological site for journalism. And it's an incredible, I think always this group of journalists that who work with down to earth turn out to be the most vigorous and rigorous and dynamic one, and who take it. So the DNA of down to earth has not changed, which was started 30 years ago, which was injected into it. And that's all about us. I think all of us every day enter what to report, and then we still end up reporting more and still not able to report more. And that's all about us. So we remain there. And thank you very much, all of us joining. Sunita ji.
Yeah, I just want to say at the end, and I'm saying this on behalf of all my colleagues who are here, that thank you so much for being with us. You know, it's not easy doing what we do, and but what gives us the strength is the fact that we know that we are making the difference, and that what we do actually matters. And the fact that you are all with us, your encouragement, your support, gives us that strength going ahead. As I said, our journey is not over, not by a long shot. There is much more to do. And my commitment and our commitment, I'm speaking now on behalf of all my present colleagues at Down to Earth at CSC, our commitment to all of you is that we will stay at it. And for us, the words of Anil, that we are not a product of the market, will remain very important. And that is something, as an editor of Down to Earth, I have found very difficult because we've had huge pressures on us to say that we need to become much more market friendly, because that's the way we can increase our numbers, our visibility. But I think for us in Down to Earth, the issue has really been influence, the power of shaping opinions. And we've had the privilege of being able to do so. So we will continue to use this space that we have to be able to stay independent, to stay courageous, and to stay truthful. And I think that is all that I hope that we will all promise that we will be, and that you will all stay with us. So we will meet again soon. And thank you again for being here this evening. It really matters. It really means a lot. So thank you.